This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so let's start. So today we are here to discuss about Appium and then learn about the tool, what kind of automation we do using Appium, right? That's something which we want to learn, correct? Am I right? Let's be interactive. You all wanted to learn Appium, right?
Yes.
So now, the very first question from my side is, um, do you all know for what purpose we use Appium? What is the purpose of using Appium?
For mobile testing.
For mobile testing. Great. Yes, it's
Like
for mobile
automate like
testing.
mobile, like Android, iOS application both.
Hmm. Android, iOS, both. Correct.
Yeah.
What else?
And hybrid as well, like native, cross-platform application.
Sorry, come again. Somebody said hybrid.
Like native application like Android or iOS, and hybrid
Uh-huh.
application and web mobile application as well.
Okay. Web mobile application as well. Correct. So what else we would say when we hear about the word APM? So what else we would get into mind? It's a open source, right? Not chargeable, right? For it. It's a open source. So somebody said about the platform, like it supports iOS, it supports Android, right? So we can call it as cross platform support. Correct? Am I correct? Can we call it as cross platform support?
Yes.
So what is a cross platform support? It can
We can
work.
run it
Hmm.
can work with like Windows, Mac, and
Correct, correct,
Linux as well.
correct. So it is independent of the platform. Correct? So that is what. Let me share my screen. Okay. Let's make it bit interactive. So I'm sharing my screen. So are you able to see it? A whiteboard? Yes? No? Able to see the whiteboard? So first we said it is open source. Second we said cross platform, right? So cross platform support is also there. Third we have like easy integration to CI CD. What is the CI CD? What is the CI CD? Am I audible?
Continuous integration, continuous deployment.
Okay, great. So yes, so we have certain tools which we use for this continuous integration and continuous delivery. Okay, so we call it as delivery, continuous delivery. Okay, And then what else we have? Though it is open source, it has large community support, right? And then it also has got something else, that is documentation. So you have a very good documentation, right? Extensive documentation. So that's which makes Appium a number one tool in the market that we use for automation of the mobile applications, right? Testing the mobile apps. So does Appium only support for testing the mobile apps?
No,
If you say no, then what are the other apps that it would support?
it supports all the apps, web apps, hybrid apps, or even desktop apps.
Mhm. Web apps. What else? So wherever you have installation of the apps, let's say like the just similar to the mobile apps, right? So let's say I wanted to install YouTube. Okay. So this particular app, in whichever applications we can install. So we can install on mobile. So let's take it as Android and iOS, right? Widely used are these two, right? And the same app I can even install on TVs, right? So again, Google TV, iOS again, and then there are some other um, OS as well, like Tizen. If somebody has heard, Samsung comes up with Tizen as well, no? Right? So likewise, so it's not just confined to the mobile. Okay. So in the mobile, now we widely use Android and iOS. But in TVs as well, we have Android TVs, we have Apple TVs, we have Tizen, and many other OS versions, right? So we can automate any kind of applications that are related to mobile or TV or any other web apps, right? So we can just automate them using Appium. So mainly focused on the functional automation, right? Mainly focused on the functional automation. So this is what a brief introduction about Appium. Okay. Now, when it comes to the topics that we cover, right? Let me share. Just give me a moment. Hmm, where is the document? Just give me a moment. I'm trying to get the document. Okay, so what all topics that we would, or the modules that we would talk about, is introduction to the Appium. So which would cover the overview of mobile test automation, what is the Appium, with a bit of examples, right, on the apps. So I would showcase certain apps to you people. And then I would also talk about Appium architecture. So where Appium, what kind of architecture on which it is built, and what drivers we have which communicate with Appium, right? So all of this, like what kind of test script we need to come up with, such that we can communicate with the Android device, or what kind of test scripts are required such that we communicate with iOS devices, right? To perform actions like clicking on a button, editing the text boxes, selecting any other element, right? So we'll briefly talk about that. Okay. And then coming up to the module 2, where we would discuss, or we would start with our Appium with Java, or Appium with C Sharp. So whichever you want to proceed with. Okay. So now, what are the languages that the Appium support? So I said C Sharp, Java already, right? So what other languages it supports?
Python.
Right. It also supports Python. Any other languages that it supports?
JavaScript,
C Sharp,
JavaScript,
C Sharp,
C Sharp, yes, I told that.
Could be all the bindings what Selenium supports.
Right. So whatever bindings that we have with Selenium. So what bindings we have with Selenium? Selenium supports Java, Selenium supports C Sharp, Selenium supports Python. It also supports
Ruby,
JavaScript,
Ruby.
Ruby, right? So in the similar way, so Appium also
PHP as
supports
well, right?
multiple languages. Sorry,
PHP as well, right? It
I
support
didn't get you.
PHP language.
No.
Okay.
So to automate the, I mean, to automate and test the application, so it supports certain languages. Okay. So when it comes to working with, web apps, or interacting with the uh, core mobile apps, so that again, it works for Android, it works for iOS, it works for any other OS as well. Okay. So okay, let's now talk about a bit into the history of it. So have you ever thought of uh, the basic programming language in which Appium was originally written? So it is widely used, and most of the people probably they tend to use it using Java programming language, right? Mostly, most of the people they use using Java programming language. So we try to automate using Java, correct? But Appium was developed or written in C Sharp programming language initially, and its name was iOS Auto, and it was specifically programmed to support for iOS devices testing, right? Apps testing initially, and then later on it was um, agreed to be funded by Sauce Labs, and then they made it into a open source desktop and mobile software testing application. Okay, so that's where Appium it became open source in 2014, around 2014, and then from there onwards, it has evolved a lot. Okay, so it has evolved a lot in such a way that it extended itself, like not just for iOS. Then we had some industry boom with Android. So there were lots of mobiles that started working with Android OS, and lots of industry revolution happened, right, with Android coming into the market. So then they extended it to support for the Android as well. So initially it was only for iOS, right? It meant for iOS. Clear on this? Yeah. So now let's discuss about what we would learn here. So we have certain modules, high level. On a high level note, I would just wanted to showcase what modules we would learn, right? What topics we would learn. Let me open the document and share it to you guys. Able to see my screen? Able to see it? Yes? No?
Yeah.
Yes,
Not
yes.
able to see. Okay, great. So we would have this introduction. We would try to understand what is Appium, its architecture, right? So it uses UI Automator for Android and then XCUI test for iOS. So in case, so you want to test YouTube application, okay? So it need to be tested on Android and as well as iOS, right? And what else, details you would require in order to test it? If I say Android, it doesn't mean that uh, it would just work for it, right? Or with iOS. So there would be certain requirements that come up, right, in the real time scenarios. So what would be the scenarios in the real time? Like I just cannot say like it is iOS, correct? So it could be iOS with certain versions, right? And devices as well, correct? There could be lots of devices. iOS runs on iPads, iOS runs on mobiles, iOS runs on laptops, iOS also runs on TVs, right? In the similar way, Android as well. So if I go to Android, then Android has even lot more devices. It is spread across multiple devices, right? There could be some handsets related to Samsung, handsets related to Oppo, handsets related to Motorola, right? Likewise, so there could be multiple devices and as well as versions of Android, right? So now I need to test WhatsApp. So what happens if WhatsApp app I need to test? So the first thing that I would collect is about the details related to the version on which I want to test, I mean the OS version, and as well as the device, right? So based upon the device, based upon the version, based upon the app version that I want to test, so accordingly, then I would have my setup and then start automating using UI Automator for the Android. Correct? Clear on this part? This would be my basic, requirements that I would need, correct, in order to test it, correct? Yes or no? Now, so we would also discuss about the Appium architecture in detail, okay, and then how to set up the Appium environment, so the installations and the configurations of the Android SDK, right? All this we would discuss. Okay, further then we would jump into something related to setting up the Appium, so either with C# or Java. So we can go with any of those, and I would be able to take up from there onwards. If we select Java, then I would proceed with Java, or else if you want to go with C#, then I can go with C# itself. Okay, any of the languages we can pick. And then we would also understand what these Android emulators are, why are these required, and how to launch these, right? So all this we would discuss. Okay, and then we would go to identification of the elements and interacting with the mobile apps. So you would understand what mobile locators we have, similar to Selenium. So if you people have understanding on Selenium or any other automation tool, probably it would be bit similar, okay, wherein we have elements that we can identify via XPath ID, accessibility ID, or class name. So we would discuss about them, and we would see how to interact with you know um, the elements on the app, right? And how to inspect. So to inspect, usually at the browser level, what we do, we right click on the element and then click on inspect, right? Then a separate window would be opened where you can view the DOM structure and the selected web element, it would be highlighted, right? So that's how in the web applications on the browser we inspect the elements. In the similar way, we have Appium inspector here, using which we can inspect the mobile elements and then look for the um, properties of each of those elements, right? So it's similar to the browser dev tools, just which I have explained right now, right? So we would also try to understand how to use that, and then we would so there are certain advanced concepts like mobile gestures automation. So we have um, so if you people use Samsung, so we have gestures, right? So with what is that, with the hand wave, probably you can take the selfie, right? That's one of the gesture. In the same way, swipe up, swipe in, so it also does certain actions, right? Tap to zoom, correct? So likewise, so whatever touch based essential verifications that we need to do for the apps, so we would understand how to test them, right? Even the scroll as well, scrolling, swiping up and down, so all of that, right? And then automating the hybrid apps. So some of the hybrid apps which probably run on native and as well as web. When I say native, that means it's purely mobile, and then we also have web apps, right? Both. So how to switch our context between the web view and the native elements is something which we would try to understand. We would try to um, uh, I mean um, automate, right? Filling out both a web-based form embedded within the native application. So we would see how it is done, okay? And then we would also talk about integration of these Appium tests with Azure pipelines. So we would set up the Azure pipelines where we talk about the continuous integration and continuous delivery, right? So automatically to run the tests after change in every code. So when we talk about this integration, so where we might also require to maintain our test scripts in a centralized repository, right? So we would talk about those, how to maintain in a centralized repository, how to push the changes into a repository, and automatically whenever there is a push into the repository, a code commit, so there would be a build pipeline triggered, right, from the Azure. So we would discuss about them, like running the Appium tests in Azure pipelines, right? So we can configure the pipeline to run the tests on Android and as well as iOS devices simultaneously, right? So we would see that how we can set up those, and then how we can execute and as well as showcase the results into the dashboard. Okay. And then test frameworks and reporting, we would discuss about the test frameworks as well. So if it is Java, we go by TestNG, and if it is C Sharp, then we would go by NUnit. So we would see how we can utilize these um, frameworks or the structure, how we can handle along with our test scripts, right? And then how to generate the reports. So now reports, again, tools like extend reports and alert reports, which probably provide us more visualized way of reporting our execution. So we would uh, look into both extend reports and alert reports as well. And then we would go ahead with discussing on the cross platform testing. So within Android, within iOS, so we can reuse our code in such a way that a single Appium script can work across both Android and iOS, right? So we can do that. Okay, we can achieve that. So we would see how we can bank on it. And I mean, because let's say if I need to open a YouTube, so how it would be? I go to the panel, click on the YouTube app such that the YouTube would be open, right? Now this flow, whatever app or the user's flow, in order to open the YouTube app on Android and iOS, both are same. And even if I want to search for some song, so that search flow is same, right? So our user apps flow is same. Probably there would be bit of difference in the component level. So we would see how we can work across both Android and iOS, right? By ensuring minimal code, or I can say like code reuse, right? And then we will talk about the parallel execution, how we can test or run on multiple devices. So as I told you, that we might have a requirement in such that um, you if I say Android and I need to test YouTube or WhatsApp, so it doesn't mean that I would just test for a single app, I mean single device, right? My requirement can be like I need to execute on maybe different devices, right? So what we can do, by using the Azure pipelines, we can run the same test suite on 5 different devices at the same time, right? We can do that. So we will be doing that as well. And then maintaining and scaling Appium test suites. So version controlling, that's where I said we probably require some common repository, right? So we would talk about GitHub, how to push the changes into the GitHub and then use it into the pipeline automatically. So, and then handling the flaky tests, right? So retry mechanisms. So there could be some test cases that might fail. In case of failure, we might want to retry at least for twice, such that we can reconfirm that that is an actual failure, right? Sometimes there could be failure due to network issues or timing problems. So if we rerun, then probably test might pass. So we can have that auto retry mechanism inbuilt, such that we can handle our flaky tests, right? So we would try to understand how we can do that. Now after that, some real world scenarios and challenges that we face we would talk about them, and we would see how we can um, uh, handle them, right? Similar to this one, test the same app on Android 9, 10, 11, right? Or let's say I'm installing some banking application. So I need to install a banking application on the mobile. So while um, opening the app itself, probably uh, it has to, I mean, probably you can see like it would ask you to allow contacts, access to contacts, access to camera, allow the access to location. Have you ever seen that while installing the apps?
Yes.
Right. So now I have a scenario for you. Let's say like you are applying for a loan from the mobile banking application. So let's say you have HDFC, and HDFC app within that, they have some within the mobile app itself. They have a portal where you can apply for the loan. So let's say you want an auto loan. Okay. So now while you are filling the details, so the mobile app should also be able to pick the location, right? So pick the location, the current location. When you provide certain details, it has to pick the location and then save it, right? And then save it for that particular instance, such that it would be easy for the further process, where some of the banking representatives might reach out to you at your address for your KYC, right? To perform your KYC formalities. Now, if such kind of scenario, so have you ever thought about this, how the mobile application is able to store our location details, or any other app, not just a banking app, any other app? So if they want to store your location, so they just ask allow for the location access. You give it. Then how is that process? How is that process or inbuilt setup works in such a way that you are able to capture the current location? Though sometimes it might be not accurate, but probably I would call it as sometimes it might deviate from the um, current, the location, maybe somewhere around 100 meters in and around, so it might take, right? So you might have observed it. So have you ever thought about it, what process we have, so how to test such kind of scenarios? Those are the real world challenges, right? When you have a mobile, you have the applications. One of the real world challenge is to test that. If I want to test that, how I would be able to do it, right? Because without testing it, I cannot without testing it, I cannot approve that feature of the access to the location is working, right? Without testing it, shall I proceed to deploy it onto the or deliver it onto the production? No, right? So we would discuss about such kind of real world scenarios and challenges that we have, and how those can be overcome, right? And then finally we would build one complete Appium test suite that automates an end-to-end user journey, integrate it into the CI/CD pipeline. So that would be our final project outcome, right? And then probably generating the reports, test reports. When I say reports, test reports via Azure pipelines, right? And we would be after at the end of the project. So what we do, running them in parallel across multiple devices and generating the reports via Azure pipeline. So this everything would be in place for us. Clear on this part? Any questions?
How is the support for Azure DevOps Java integration?
It is there.
Okay,
So it's a
because mostly
CI/CD,
people
right?
use it for mostly people use it for C sharp integrations. So just
Correct.
wondering if it's good
So
enough. Yeah.
no, no, it works. It works for Python. It works for any other languages. Nothing to worry. We should be able to do it, right? So it's see CI/CD tools. So I can have Azure, I can have Jenkins, I can have GitHub Actions. Okay, so any of these platforms, whichever you want to use, so we would be able to integrate it. So if you learn this end-to-end integration at least on one tool, rest of the tools it would be bit similar, but probably your terminology with respect to the application might change. Okay, so you can do it on AWS, you can do it on GCP as well, any cloud platforms. So they all provide it.
Okay. One more question I have.
Mhm.
How many classes it will take to complete?
Somewhere around, I have quoted it for 45 hours.
Okay.
So 1 hour each day. So within 45 days, mostly within 45 days, we'll complete it.
Okay. And in that, like, I would like to know, suppose if we are going for Java, like how many days of Java and to what depth of Java we'll be covering?
So I'm not sure if you have seen any of my uh, tutorials. I mean, with respect to C Sharp, Selenium, also I'm taking up right now. So, wherein my way of teaching would be like, let's say, like the inheritance, one of the OOPS concepts, right? So, I specifically, when I'm trying to use it within my code base, right? So at then and there itself, I would try to explain those concepts as well. So you would cover all the basics along with the coding related to the automation, right? So that's how my
Okay.
coaching style would be. So
Okay.
when I declare some variable, right? So at that time I would discuss about the data type. So if I have a declaration like public string some variable, so now I have got string there, right? So at that time I will discuss about data types. So likewise, so we go
Okay.
to the concept, we discuss about those basics, and then again jump back into our usual session or the requirement that we are trying to discuss. So that's how it would be, such that it would be relatable to the real time examples and as well as the work that we usually do, right? So
So, so
otherwise,
you'll start
yeah,
off with APM itself, is it? Like to
yeah,
start off
I
with.
start off with the installation setup.
Got it.
I
Got
would
it.
start with the architecture. We will discuss about the architecture, and then we will
Mhm.
go ahead and set up the APM server and other stuff, and then we would slowly start with our locators identification and how we come up with our page objects, right? How we come
Mhm.
up with our framework. Now within that, now I would start working on your OOPS concepts, covering the OOPS concepts, everything.
Makes sense. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And will you be
So will you,
using Android Studio?
Sorry, come again.
Will you be using Android Studio or something else?
Yes, yes, we'll be using it.
Okay, thanks. That's all.
Yeah. Somebody else
will
is
you
also.
provide any automation framework to us at final to work on?
So the outcome, as I showed you, right? So it would be a end-to-end framework which you people would set up. It's not me who would be setting it up. So at the end, it is you who would set it up. Okay. So based upon the learnings that we have, so the end product would be the end-to-end automation setup, which can run on both iOS and as well as Android. And then through the Azure pipeline, so you would also achieve the parallel test execution for multiple devices and multiple versions of OS, and then showcasing the results as well, right? Capturing the test results. So this end-to-end whatever process we have, so I am here to facilitate that process. So I will facilitate that process for you people, and at the end you would be able to come up with your end-to-end framework. Any other questions?
And yeah, sorry. I would like to know whether it's going to be Java based or C Sharp based.
It depends on you people. If you want to go with Java, I will go with Java. If you want to go with Python, I would go with Python. So it's up to you which language you want to learn. So if you people are okay to go with Java, let's fix that, and then I will go with it.
Um, Personally, I am from Java background, so I would prefer that. But yeah, I would like to know about the other people also.
See, any one language, a base for us to understand the concepts, even the OOPS concepts as well, right? The basic concepts, and as well as any other advanced concepts within the programming language. So one programming language is enough. So based on that, you can build for other languages as well. Okay. So if we all are okay to go with Java, I will go with Java. Good to go with Java?
Yes,
Yeah.
me too prefer Java.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's go with Java. Let's lock it for Java. Any other questions?
Hi Srinu, I am from C Sharp background actually. So,
Hmm.
will there be any hardships learning Java for the first time?
No, not really. So I
Okay,
was
I'm aware
from so
code
initially
difference.
I started, yeah. So initially I started with Java, and then moved on to C Sharp, and then now I'm working with Python, and even testing the Gen AI evaluations of the LLMs and guardrails, right? So it's fair enough. I mean, all these are what we say, like programming languages with similar kind of concepts. It's only about the syntax that would change. You can correlate with C sharp, so not at all a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello. So these
Yeah.
session recorded, right?
Yes. So team would be sharing you all the recordings, and I would be sharing the materials as well, course material. Any other questions?
Any possibility that the class may extend after 1 hour because I have an early shift for office, so
Uh,
just
no,
checking.
it would be of 1 hour. Mostly, I would also need to conclude it within 1 hour because I also need to go for my office, right? So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
so I'll do that. So
Yeah.
mostly we'll close out by 7:30 or quarter to 8 max, right? So we would continue that sessions in the next class. No need to hurry about it, right? So we need to learn the things. So let's learn it, and then let's park the things In case if it is beyond the timeline that we have fixed for the day, we can continue it in the next class.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I will give you back 7 minutes today. Okay. As this is an introductory class, so I'm closing out right away, and probably we would take it up from tomorrow onwards. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.